As much as you have a good heart and want to be a nice guy, it's a war. Losing that game 7, that's when I kind of went down on my knees and I broke down. I think that you drive to be perfect, even in back of your mind, you know it's not gonna be perfect. You're still driving for it.
When you think about that commitment, like who set the standard, the world standard or your very best?
This is a great question, Michael.
Z, I am so stoked to have you on the Finding Mastery podcast. You are one of the best to ever step foot on the ice as a leader, as a defender, as a teammate. I know you won't say that, so I'm saying it for you, but countless have said it well before me. And needless to say, we are really excited to learn from you. And so the simple question I want to start with is like, how are you today?
No, thank you so much for having me, first of all, Michael. And I'm very humbled by your kind words and welcoming. I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day in Boston, and I had a great workout this morning, and very much looking forward to spend some time chatting with you about anything that comes up. So let's do this.
All right, cool. So when you say a good day, interesting, and you talked about the weather, you talked about doing something physically, and then you talked about an optimistic framework of thinking about like what's coming that's exciting. Is that part of your operating system? Something physical, something to do with nature, and something to look forward to?
Yes, absolutely. I think that we all talk about like when the day starts, right? But for me, it's kind of like leading up to the what's the day kind of prior or leading up to that new day, right? So I think for me, it's kind of a continuous process where a lot of times people talking about like when they wake up and see how the weather is and see if they feel good and see if they're that or this. For me, it starts kind of like when you are actually going to bed and you are finishing your day, then you kind of prepare yourself mentally for that next day. And that's when it kind of starts.
So one of the things I want to talk to you about is transitions, because transitions in, transitions out, whether it's in a career or it's a work day, are really important. And you just dialed right into your transition from night, from the evening into daytime. And if I have it right, it sounds like you don't think about discrete starts and stops, that there's a rolling experience throughout life for you, evidenced by at the end of the day, I think about how I want to show up, tomorrow. And I use a mental imagery or visualization to do that. And do I have the framing right that it's not like a start stop? It is a rolling experience, which, as you say, it sounds so simple to understand.
You have it very, very, I think nailed down to really good explanation. I think that a lot of times we get caught in these ups and downs, good days, bad days. Sometimes you hear people saying, this ended for me and I was kind of searching and looking for a new beginning, new start. But I think at the same time, we always kind of hearing too, like, keep going, just keep going. I think that you can get through anything as long as you kind of like keep going and it's just kind of like keep rolling. Eventually, it will find your path. It will find the way that you kind of what you're looking for, what you're kind of driving for. As long as you don't get stuck mentally and also kind of like physically, which obviously we know that mental part really affects your state of mind, affects your physical well-being. If you don't get stuck in that hey, everything is kind of bad or everything is not happening for me, but you just keep going with whatever is happening, whatever the day comes and brings, then you kind of have that rolling, like you said, like you explained, the rolling mindset that everything is going to be okay. Just keep going.
On the topic of transitions, describe to me who you were on the ice and who you were off the ice. Was it the same? Was it different? Because it's hard for me to imagine you in this form on the ice, known as one of the great defensemen and enforcer at 6'9", not including blades, that you were a force to be reckoned with. And even the great Wayne Gretzky has comments about playing with you and against you. And so Help me understand the transition here on your mindset when you're on the ice and who you were off the ice.
The thing that people don't realize, you're still obviously the same person, but um, the responsibilities and the commitments are, everybody's taking it a little bit differently. Some players like to be loose, some players like to have fun, they all like to always be smiling and just go with the flow. And for me, I was always very serious, very committed to every little detail, and I was really driven to be the best I could every single day, every single practice. Probably a lot more in the practices, than in the games. And, mistakes in the games, they happen, and then you just have to react to them. But in the practices, the drills. Usually know what the drills are coming, and what type of drills you do, and you kind of do pretty much the same drills the whole season. But you try to be as perfect as possible. And being a leader on a team, you don't want to be showing too many errors and things that would be kind of a red flag. So you're always driving for perfection. You always try to be the best as you can and lead a team by example. So for me, it was, every day just show up and be the hardest working guy, always do lead by example, and basically, lead a team to championship and to the success. And not that would be completely off my personality, or I would be like faking it. I felt very comfortable in that role, and very, very good that I'm very fortunate and grateful that I was in that position to be a leader. But once kind of like once I retired, I felt sense of relief, because as you know, Michael, it's you carry that load with you for a long time. It's a weight that, it's not a bad weight, but it's still a weight that you got to be always thinking about how you're going to solve a problem, how you're going to figure out when a team is not playing well, how you're going to figure out to motivate the team with a speech in the locker room. There's so many things daily, and every season something new, and you got to find a way to solve it, and to make it work. So when I retired, I felt that sense of a little bit of relief, but not in the sense that it was like pulling me down throughout the years. It was just one of those things that relieved that, what, I did the best I could, and I'm happy, and I think I did fine.
God, you said so much in there. The relief of knowing that I actually did my very best.
Yeah, and no regrets, basically. Yeah, it's just one of
Okay.
those. What I'm trying to say, that I love carrying that weight. I love being in that spotlight, and being the guy and leader. And at the end, I think that it's tiring. There's no doubt that when you're in that role, that you've been asked to lead and do so many other things, to sacrifice for team and other things, then you at the end, when you kind of like hanging your skates up, or when you leave in a company, and you look back, I think that it was some sort of like sense of relief in a, being a proud too. I've been very proud that, listen, like I've done, things that I was very, very happy with, and things that I learned on the way, and many, many people to be thankful to, for their help. But it was just a sense of relief, in a good way, that I did the best I could, and no regrets.
Usually when people talk about relief, it's because they are relieved of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
They're relieved of the conditions that they were in that were really hard and difficult. And so it wasn't anxiety. It was a relief of the relentless commitment to be your very best and to help other people be their very best. Do I have it right?
Yeah, you got it right. Never
It was
mind.
not it was not
No,
anxiety.
no, it wasn't anxiety at all. I
Okay.
was grateful for those opportunities and those, challenges, and and some of the hard times, if you want to call, everybody's going to have some ups and downs, and the years when the team is not doing well or you are struggling as a player, and all that stuff. So but those are also the moments where you learn the most, and those are the ones that kind of like shape you in a better of yourself, because you learn the most from those times. So definitely not the anxiety or some sort of depression or any of that type. I was more like, hey, that was awesome. I was kind of like grateful and very, very happy for that I got to do this for that long, and came at the end out of it, fairly okay. So as far as health
Yeah.
health wise.
Can you recall a time or share a story that marks or captures a really hard time for you as an NHL player, as a leader, as a captain, as somebody who's being heralded by the world for how great you are? Can you bring forward a hard time?
Hard times are something that obviously you would love to control, but you can't.
No, no,
And
no, no. I mean like really take me into a time or a phase or a moment or an actual experience. I want to know what you were wearing. I want to
okay,
know where you
so
were. Yeah.
the hard time is when we were playing Stanley Cup Finals against Chicago Blackhawks in 2013. We are in the finals. My grandma just passed away. That I think was like game 3. So my mom told me that 2 days later, and she's like, I didn't want to be like, telling you I know you're in the finals, but when I asked her about how's your mom doing, how's grandma doing, because I knew she was not doing well, she kind of paused and she only said like, I didn't want to tell you during the finals. So I knew that okay, she passed away. But being banged up and then eventually losing in the finals, that was heartbreaking. And same thing in the 2019 to St. Louis, really banged up. The one of the hardest and the worst moments for me was when I was leaving for the game 7. Um, my boys were fairly still young. They were only 3 years old, but I promised them that I'll bring back a trophy, big trophy.
Oh, jeez.
And
Oh, God.
yeah, and I made them promise that when I get back, I'm gonna bring this huge trophy. You guys gonna be sitting in it, and we're gonna be all like laughing and we're gonna be celebrating, and I I got so banged up the whole series. I was so like at the end of my the energy was just so low, and losing that game 7 and walking back home and opening door in my suit, and I see my boys running towards me, and they were like in their eyes, they're running and they like waiting for that trophy to be handed to them, and I was empty-handed, and that's when I kind of went down on my knees and I broke down, and
Mm.
yeah, that was tough. That was tough. I yeah, I that was one of the lowest moments, for me, and it was like I didn't deliver what we kind of we all were going for as a team, as a player, and also I didn't deliver almost like that promise as a dad. And when I broke down like to tears, I was crying on the floor, like I was devastated.
Do you cry? Is that part of how you express yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I did cry. Obviously, that was something, because I was
No,
physically, I
just
was.
in general. Just in general. Is
Yeah,
that
I
part
do.
of
I do. I'm not ashamed of it. When I see a movie and there's something really that I can relate to, and the movie is done so like well, and you can picture yourself in that position of the situation. yeah, I mean, I'm not ashamed of it. Like when I see something, I have tears. Like I think that's natural, that's human, and I'm not gonna be pushing back tears just because I'm 6'9" and one of the strongest players to ever play. I'm not gonna be holding back. I mean, I have feelings. It's okay.
So there's a strong connection, I think, between why you were so good at hockey and this underlying current of not wanting to let others down, not wanting to let your family down, your boys down. I wonder if you had that same feeling about Boston, about, you know, the full city, not wanting to let well, actually, your teammates, Boston as a city, your country, maybe a fan base. Is there a thread here about not wanting to let others down that rings true for you?
Yeah, absolutely, Michael. I always feel like um, I love that responsibility and have that uh, to be in that frame of mind that hey, like these people believe in me. Like I need to deliver. I want to deliver. It's not like I'm being put in a position and being uncomfortable. I feel comfortable, but I don't want to be letting anybody down. Like I always felt that it's such an honor, like to be in that position to be leading and to have that ability and that chance to make thousands of people happy and proud and the reason to celebrate and call themselves Bostonians, for example, or Charas or friend of Big Z. Like it doesn't matter. There could be different groups, different teams, and different group. So I really felt like it's such a grateful position to be in, to be able to make people happy and relate to you and your success. And so, yeah.
That to me sounds like a lot of pressure that you liked, that you appreciate. Billie Jean King, one of the greats ever, says that pressure is a privilege. And especially when it comes to sports here in the framing that she's talking about. So let's open up how you worked with that pressure.
Well, I had to
How
learn
did
how
you
to
manage
work.
it?
Yeah, I had to
Mhm.
learn how to work with that. I think at early stages, I was trying to do too much. I was under I was under the spotlight when I became a captain in Boston. I was just trying to um, take care of everything, like in the locker room, what was happening outside the locker room. It was just like one of those things that I felt that I need to have pretty much something to say in everything that was happening, whether that was in meetings, plays on the ice, talking to media. It was just like so much happening that I felt that that pressure was a little bit overwhelming. But then I learned that you need to spread that leadership, spread that pressure a little bit, and be comfortable with that. And it was the best thing that ever happened because now you welcoming more people in your circle of leadership, and they having great skills as well and complementing your leadership and working together as a small group of leaders and always talking about decision making and the process and strategies. And it was great to sink in with other people as well. So early on, I took a lot on my shoulders naturally, but later on, I was just so comfortable and grateful that I was surrounded by great people and leaders, and we worked really well together.
What a pivot that must have been to go from, I need to get this done to, wait, I can't do it alone. We need each other to be our very best. That sounds like it was a pivot. Was there an experience that helped you with that transition in your framing of leadership?
Yeah, of course. I was meeting a lot of people, like a lot of different leaders from other sports, and they all said the same thing. Leadership is something you share, something that you you are not afraid, you are not guarding, you are not protecting the leadership. You have to spread it out, you have to share, you have to let other people to kind of express their kind of leadership skills and let them grow as the leaders. And I mean, that shift just came naturally. I think that by meeting other great leaders and people that I had great conversation with, and I mean, it just made a lot of sense. And but at the same time, it took time for me because I became a captain my very first year,
I know.
and
Like, that's remarkable, by the way.
yeah,
That is remarkable.
and I didn't know the personalities as well, all the players. So it took me full year to kind of like get to know them. And then I knew that, okay, like I see who are the leaders, who are the more vocal guys, who are the guys who always kind of like saying the right things, acting, in the right way, doing the right things on and off the ice. So naturally, first year was kind of like more like guarded for me, and second, and from that on, it was more like I spread it out and shared it, and it was great to have those guys with me.
Who comes to mind when you think about other great leaders that have influenced you?
I had great conversation with Al Arbor, the coach when New York Islanders won 4 Stanley Cup championships. We lived very close to each other in Florida, in my kind of like summer house. Had great conversation with Dick Hoyt. So that was remarkable. I had some conversation with George Hincapie, a little bit like Lance Armstrong. Tom Brady was unbelievable when I speak to him about different things and leadership and teams. So I had like conversation with people that really made huge impact and positive impact in sports and in general and other things. So it's just
What did you learn from Tom Brady? Like, what was that
uh,
exchange like?
it was great. Like Tom was so kind. I kind of reached out to him and didn't know what to expect. Obviously, one of the most recognizable figures and most successful quarterbacks ever, in NFL. And he got back to me, and I just called him, and I don't recall exactly the conversation, but the way he talked to me, and he found a time, and he never came from his side that, okay, I have to go, Z, great talking to you. He was willing to talk to me for as long as I wanted to talk, and just that itself, to find a time and always be kind of willing to respond and share, it was for me, it was a great, such a great example and experience. That was something that I always cherish.
Yeah, but I mean, in Boston, at the same time, you were the captain of your team. He was the captain of his team. Both of you were, on a tear, like really pushing your teams to new levels. And so that must have been a really fun moment being in Boston, having a connection with him, knowing that you're both trying to be better leaders, and it sounds like you're mutually learning from each other, but you didn't want to say that. But it sounds like, it was a mutual learning or sharing.
Yeah, I think so. But I felt that all the sports in Boston are so connected. I think that at one point the Boston sport had, I don't know how many championships between Red Sox, Patriots, Celtics, and us. It was just a parade pretty much every other year in Boston. So there was a really true happiness for each other, but at the same time, it was kind of like internal competition. Like, okay, Celtics won. Okay, it's our turn. Okay, Red Sox won. Patriots gonna be the next. Like, it was just one of those things that we were very happy, supportive for each other, but internally, we want to be the next championship team too. So, yeah.
Okay, so let me circle back around a couple of things. You earlier had said it was a commitment to be your very best. And I'm adding to it the reason that you felt relief is because that was so hard to do day in and day out, to fundamentally commit to being my very best. And it's like a heavy bag to carry, right? Like that type of fundamental commitment. There are very heavy bags in this world. This is not the heaviest bag to carry, but it is hard to renew that commitment every day. But you said something that has just stuck with me, because you also threw the word in perfection, that you were pursuing perfection. So how do you square those two?
I think I think that you drive to be perfect, in even in back of your mind, you know it's not gonna be perfect. You're still driving for it. And I don't know if I'm explaining myself in a really understandable way, but you always try to go a notch up or be even better than last time, and you're driving to be perfect, but you know it's not gonna be probably happening, because there's always gonna be something happening that it's not gonna allow you to be perfect. But for me, it was like the daily process was more enjoyable and rewarding itself. Just seeing myself improving and getting results from hard work, and it was way more satisfying than getting the recognition and validations. At the end, I think I was benefiting from years of this kind of commitment, dedication, and of hard work and consistency, investing into that hard work and willingness to listen and learn um, from my own experiences. I think that just the process is just something that daily you driving yourself to be the best you can, even knowing that you're probably not gonna reach it, but you just keep doing that.
When you think about that commitment, were you driving towards your highest standards, your personal best, or were you driving toward the world standard? Like, who set the standard that you were competing against, the world standard or your very best?
This is a great question, Michael, because both. Because you watching something that might affect your standards to go way higher than you thought. For example, like Lance Armstrong, like you seeing how he started dominating the cycling, and his desire and his drive, and you seeing it, and you kind of like, I remember watching those DVDs and seeing how he trained and how he was like competing and had that killer instinct when he was winning stages and defending his titles. Then you realize like, okay, I need to push it even more. Then watching Chicago Bulls era, and I love, I don't know who are your favorite teams, but I remember when I was in my teenager years and Chicago Bulls were winning those championships. I loved the way like they played, and they were like such a great team. And obviously Michael was the driving force, but you see like how they were like dialed in, and those eyes, and later on, that whole documentary came out about Chicago Bulls, and you kind of like seeing how they're talking about how they were pushing each other, how not everything was red roses. How Michael said, I had to push my teammates to be better. I had to criticize my teammates. I had to be this, but that's what it takes, to be champions. Then you kind of like following that, and you setting yourself for yourself the goals. But then I think naturally when you see something happening outside of the world, then you got to raise the level, because if you stay on the same level, you're gonna be behind. So you got to be kind of like walking with the rest of the world.
Okay. So let's imagine we have 100 casino chips, and you can place them in one or two quadrants. You can place it, or one or two buckets. I'm going to place my chips on um, on driving toward the world standard, or I'm going to place my chips on driving towards my personal best. How do you allocate those 100 chips?
Well, I think that if you put it in a bucket with world standards, you might not reach your personal best. because you don't know what's your limit.
That's right.
You don't know what
So in that case, world standards might be a delimiter. It might
exactly.
reduce. So that's why I'm asking you, like, when you're paying attention, because you're committed to getting better, right? And
Yeah.
so when you're paying attention, are you attending to what it takes for me to be my very best today, or for us to be our very best today? Or are you paying attention to what the world standard is?
I'm pushing myself to be the very best, but Michael, but I think that in many cases, people are just being complacent. What I was talking about, like they just get complacent to be like, oh, I did my best. But they don't realize that, hey, like if he did it, I can do it too. I just got to push myself harder. That my
Oh,
best has to be a little bit higher than what I see my best or what it could be my best.
oh, that's interesting. Okay, because that's what I think great teammates, great friends, great supervisors, great coaches do is there's this calibration between, let's say you and I are teammates in some respect. And you say, Mike, what are you trying to do here? And I say, I'm trying to fill in the blanks, whatever my big vision or big goals are. And then we calibrate. So we're on the same page. And then you might say, oh, wait, you're you're just trying to get to the All-Star game once? Wow. I think if you really applied yourself, you might find that you can win some championships that, if the team, is good enough, but you could do this and this and this. Like you could set a standard that is higher for another person and maybe help them swallow that pill to see something that they couldn't see, to metabolize it in a way that feels believable. And I think it's one of the great ways that we can show up for each other is helping raise standards.
I think, yeah, you explained great because I think a lot of times the minds are the just limiting us a little bit. Like I think that in your mind you can say I'm gonna be my best, and you get like to the point where like, oh, I did my best, but then you don't realize you just need a little bit like a friend talk to you, or seeing a highlight, or read about something that you never thought would be done, and all of a sudden you like, oh, wait a minute, like this is possible. I never knew this would be possible, or this record will be broken, or something. And then you realize like, holy moly, I think if he did it, I can do it. If that's been done, oh, that could be done, repeated again. Like I think that sometimes we limit ourselves just a little bit by our mind that okay, I'm doing my best, but there's like you said, the world's best or standard that we kind of see, hear, read, and and we forget that it's always being pushed, it's always being raised.
Yeah.
I think with nobody thought the run a marathon would be run under 2 hours ever, and then boom, we have it. Nobody thought that something could be done, and people keep doing it. They keep breaking records.
Nobody thought that a 6'9" athlete could could play 24 seasons and run. How many marathons have you run?
So far, nine, I believe, nine
Yeah, no,
or 10.
no, yeah. So, okay, so this is probably the heart of it. There's so much more I want to ask you, and thank you for this conversation.
No, thank you,
But
Michael.
we started by you saying that I don't see transitions as discrete moments, but more like a rolling life experience, including the way I go to bed. And before I go to bed, I use my imagination and I see myself being great tomorrow, how I would like to experience tomorrow. Two-part question. How often would you actually use mental imagery at night before you went to bed? And what would you actually see? And how long, three-part, and how long was the imagery, quote unquote, session or training session?
I would probably say that imagery is every night. Like I every night see myself the next day, at least for some short period of time. Like okay, tomorrow I'm waking up this, and you're pre-planning, right? Like you're setting whatever you need to be ready for. You're preparing your stuff or your drinks or your snacks or your paperwork or I'm recording podcasts, so I want to be ready. I'll make a short note. So you're visualizing that, okay, this is going to be happening. I need to be ready and have your mind lock in already before you go to bed. And that way, I think when you wake up in the morning and throughout the night, your mind, your body is already preparing without you even kind of like have to say that, be ready. Because when you start thinking about it, when you start preparing yourself, automatically your mind, your body is getting ready. So for me, sometimes could be as short as, I don't know, maybe few seconds, because you already went through that preparation, so you don't need to be thinking about it anymore. You just know it's happening. But other times, when let's say I'm running a marathon, next day, I'm trying to visualize sometimes certain sections or parts, a feeling, what it's gonna be like with the crowd. So it might take a little bit longer. That's why sometimes you probably don't fall asleep right away. But
Okay.
yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, because when I do imagery, or I work with athletes or executives to do imagery at night, there's a couple things that take place. One is when you really do it, you turn on your central nervous system. So this is not something to do at night in bed, because if you're really involved in this beautiful movie that is amazing in your mind, like, you turn on. So this is not like ideal before going right to sleep. And most people, most undisciplined people, say, oh, imagery, yeah, I do that before the game. Yeah, but you play a game once a week or twice a week, or in your case, sometimes 3 times a week. What about the other nights? No, 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 no. I kind of do it before games. But you're saying, no, I would do it every day. So that hits me. And then you said sometimes it's just a handful of seconds, sometimes it's a little bit longer, I would imagine. Would it travel into like 10 minutes, 30 minutes, somewhere in there?
Probably not as long. Then we're talking about visualization, of something differently. Like I would probably do that, like probably 5 to 10 minutes during my playing careers when I would wake up from a nap, and then you're literally visualizing, certain play you're playing against, or certain line, or something that will be happening. So you're kind of getting really ready, like into detail and locking in. So it almost those actions becomes automatic when they happen. It's because you're already visualizing them.
So you do some sort of imagery work before you go to bed, preparing yourself for the next day, and then after napping, which is really clever. And I want to get into the weeds here, and I want to play with this, because this is an underutilized skill that most of us have, not everybody, but most of us have the ability to imagine in our mind's eye. And it's really so powerful. The research on it is quite ridiculous, how strong it is. But you would use it post napping. What's clever about that, Z, is that coming out of a nap, we tend to be in that theta brainwave, which is a very relaxed state. It means that you're quite open to use your imagination. And I don't know if somebody taught that to you or you figured out on your own, but that is remarkable that you would do it there. Did someone teach it to you, or is that you figured it out on your own?
I kind of became like, just a habit. I nobody really told me like, hey, you should be doing that. I kind of woke up from a nap and during my playing days, and start kind of like visualizing and getting ready. I didn't have those naps, very long naps. Maybe that's why as well. For me, it was usually 45 minutes to hour 15, hour and a half the max. Some guys like to sleep 2.5 hours. For me, maybe it was because it was shorter, so I had much more time to get myself ready and get dressed and get to the snack before the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I had time, and while I was, in a room or a hotel or at home, I kind of like started really, really imagining like what the specific situation would be and scenarios. And literally, like, if they, or most of the time they do happen during the course of the game, it was just an automatic reaction. I didn't even have to even think, because I was already playing that same situation that I played in my mind, in the afternoon.
Let's go into 2011. You won the Stanley Cup. And can you go into the night before one of the games? Can you recall the imagery and how you would how you did it at that time?
Yeah, it was. I still remember I was going in a bed, and I was so calm and so relaxed. It was like I had different feeling than some of the nights before. I was very calm, very confident, and I was falling asleep with a visualizing and seeing myself lifting a cup. And that was it. That was just like, hey, I'm gonna be lifting a cup tomorrow. I just knew, like, it was just like, tomorrow, get ready. Like, you're gonna be lifting a cup for the whole team and for the whole city and for all the fans, and it's gonna be unbelievable. You're all good. Like, just relax, have a good night's sleep. It was like that. It was like I didn't have to imagine much more. It was just I was very calm. Then I had actually a really good nap too. And again, when I woke up from a nap, I just visualized certain situations, and I was like in peace of mind. It was like I just felt it will be happening.
And if you were to add up all of your imagery sessions across your entire playing career and life, let's just do playing career. Did you spend most of your time seeing the success at the end, or seeing yourself being great or solving challenges during game match or during gameplay?
Um, at
It's
times,
performance imagery versus outcome imagery is what I'm asking
yeah,
about.
yeah. As much as you like to sometimes see yourself always on the good end or that winning side, at times I did have it was interrupted. I knew, but it would be something that was just in conflict. It was just like it was like I was thinking something in the head, and it was like not happening, and I wanted to kind of imagine all the great things, and it was like it's gonna be kind of like, yeah, you get that vibe, and it's hard to explain. I guess it was just something happening that I couldn't explain, but I just didn't have the same feelings, I guess.
So let's go to 2013. This is the one that you were referencing earlier that you broke down with your kids, on your knees crying that,
Yeah, 19,
you know,
2019.
that was 2019.
Yeah,
Okay. And did you, during that series, did you play with multiple jaw fractures?
yeah. I mean, it was. I kind of had a bad luck throughout the whole playoffs. I had tearing my groin. I separated my shoulder. I was at that time I didn't know I had broken elbow, and then my jaw. I got shot, in the jaw. So um, I was so banged up. I was physically so like hurting and not close to be 100%. That it was frustrating because as much as I wanted to contribute as much as I was used to, physically I couldn't do it as much as I wanted to, and that was kind of frustrating for me. So then,
So,
then that visual side. Sorry, Michael. Then you imagine things, and you are used to imagine things, how you can skate out of the corner, how you can make this play, how you can do that. But knowing now that, hey, you are not 100%. You have to adjust that play to this play, or moving the puck through, a lot quicker, because you are not going to be able to skate that fast because you are hurting, and all these things. Somebody's coming to hit you. You got to turn quickly to the good shoulder because you don't want to get like the other shoulder. So you
you
just
know,
you
you said not 100%. Like, I mean, you just went through a list of real injuries. I mean, you were like 10%, like amazing. Like, it really is like listening to you just casually say it. Uh, I'm like on the other side of this, like, okay, toughness is part of the DNA here. And I don't actually, maybe just to give you some context, emotional pain and physical pain work on the same circuitry. And so you had a ton of physical pain, and then you had the emotional pain of loss. And so it's like you got a two for, like a two for in that, in 2019. And then if you had the loss in 2013, and you had physical pain, and you lost your grandmother, that would be like 3x. And so that's a pretty heavy overall feeling of loss. And so I just want to kind of add some color to that it's exponential in how it's felt. It's not just, oh, I lost the game or the series, and it's not just I lost my loved one, my grandmother. They stack on top of each other, and they override that same circuitry. So I just want to note, I see you in that, Z, and that must have been incredibly hard.
Oh, thank you for understanding. Yeah, I was. Yeah, but you know what? Like, uh, we all go through this. Players, injuries, and different challenges. So I'm not the only one, and there's plenty of guys who dealt with this before, and plenty will be doing the same thing after me. I think it's just the nature of the sport, and of course everybody has different limits. Maybe I had other limits than somebody else would be able to play with the injuries, but for most part I think we all as a hockey players or athletes push ourselves to through the pains, through the injuries. So I can't be sitting here and just taking all the credit. I mean, I've seen teammates with punctured lungs and broken bones and broken legs and keep playing, and it just So that's how much you want to win. You want to put everything online. You want to sacrifice everything for that moment of lifting a trophy and then be on top of the world, as you say. But it comes at cost sometimes. Yeah.
So in preparation for this conversation, I called Sidney Crosby to who I've known for a long time, and I asked him, like, if you have one question for Z. and he texts back and he's like, oh man, there's so much I'd like to ask him. And so obviously you guys know each other, but
Yeah.
so I want to give you the question from Sidney. Okay.
Okay.
And so for the listener, Sidney is one of the greatest to ever play the game as well. Like Sidney is, I don't know. How do you describe Sidney? I describe him as one of the best ever.
Yeah, absolutely. He's one of the best ever. He made such a positive impact on the game, and he's a champion. He's a leader. One of the best ever play the game. Really caring, really humble guy, and always willing to help, talk to his teammates, I never got to play with him, but the few times we spoke, always very kind. And obviously, we had some battles over the years, but that's just part of it. We being both leaders of the teams, and I mean that's when you earn the respect from each other. I think that you just battle and go out there and just try to win.
So from one captain to the next, he says, besides your work ethic, what else would you attribute to your longevity? What were your challenges from early to late in your career, and how did you approach change? Oh, they're deep questions now.
Yeah, I mean, there's like three questions in that one.
So let's go for one by one right here. Okay. Besides your work ethic, so he's already saying you're one of the hardest grinders. What else would you attribute to your longevity?
Believing. I think believing in yourself that you can still play, you can still contribute, you can still get better. I think that's to me, believing in yourself is so important. There's gonna be times when there's gonna be doubts, especially towards the end of your career, and it's not pretty because then you start noticing that people looking at you differently. They talk to you differently. They just lowering your ice time. They are not putting you on a first power play, maybe second power play. All of a sudden you are not on power play. It's just like your role is getting more and more diminished. But with that happening, you gotta still believe in your abilities, and you still gotta believe that I can still play and still get better. And even if it's hard to even seeing yourself to be faster or being stronger or being quicker, you still can play the game faster. You don't have to be faster, but you can still play it faster. You can move the puck quicker. You can because the puck doesn't know your age. All right. So you can still make these adjustments and changes. So that's going to be maybe answering that other question, or the part of the question, that you can still make it work and be very, very effective.
So you know what are you just saying that because you're talking to a sports psychologist? Or
No,
is
no, I'm just saying
okay.
that because I spoke to like other people, and I read a lot of things, and I started thinking about things, and I I always wanted to. Oh my God! Look at this, Michael. I have a bird on my window. I'm sorry. I don't
I
want to
s-
be like. You see that bird?
no, your thumb is over the camera now.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's trying to get in. I don't know what's going on. Sorry. This is gonna probably, we can cut this out. But look, this
Oh
is
yeah,
what
no, let
the.
me see it. Oh, oh, geez. Yeah.
I don't know. He's trying to get in. Should I open the window?
That would be an adventure.
I'm sorry. I was like, somebody's knocking on the window. I was like, it's a bird. He's trying to get in. So I don't know how to continue with this. I'm so sorry.
No,
I kind of like, I
no,
was
no,
like,
this
there's
is
a
great.
bird. Like,
No, no, no,
to
no.
get into. So anyway, so you.
Wait, wait. This is what I'm marking is that when Sydney asked you about longevity, you didn't say, "Oh, it's because diet or my fitness routine or something tangible." You went to the intangible. You went to the invisible. You went to your belief system, and it's a belief that you can continue to get better. It wasn't a belief that you're going to win the cup. It was a belief that you could continue to improve. And then it wasn't like, and then the insight, maybe you're a step slower, but that doesn't mean that you have to play slower. There's other ways that you work the system. And so I totally appreciate that answer because you're way upstream working on the invisible part of life that has tangible, real, impactful, physical outputs. So you're working at the mental level to have a better physical experience in life. And I see one of the reasons why I love this question from Sydney, and I see why you played so long and at such a high level.
I mean, physically, you can have. I mean, anybody can just be doing a work. Like there's so much out there that you can watch and read and see about physical workouts. Like there's so much material on YouTube or books or whatever it might be. But I think it's gotta happen internally. I think internally you gotta make that kind of like that belief in yourself. When nobody else does anymore. I mean, you gotta be, you gotta be on different levels, and when you do that, then amazing things happen physically because you just unlock. You're gonna unlock so much potential that you don't even never knew that existed.
How do you teach, or how would you teach a 15-year-old about confidence?
Well, I would like to first get to know him. I mean, I had many parents came up to me and ask me if I could help them train their kid. And I always give me a question why. And they well, because you've been playing, but I'm like, why is your son like? Does your son want to play or train with me? Like, I understand you want me to train your son because you're a parent, but I always like to have those questions and conversations with the person, himself. I want to
It's beautiful.
understand what the kid, for example, now we're talking about 15. I want to know what he's thinking, what his goals are, what his interests are. I think that you know because then you might realize everybody could be different, right? Like some might be already overconfident, and you're gonna have to actually teach him to be more humble. And others might be so humble that they're actually it's not good to be that humble. You need to have some more confidence to go into things. So, I think that you just got to know the person, yourself, and read by what you see, what you hear. So I would probably just listen. And first, I would like to get to know the 15-year before I would make any suggestions or any type of advice.
It's beautiful. Do you feel, as being 6'9", that you're understood? Or I have an insight that kids that were tall, they have a very different experience in life. They're not hugged as often as kids that are shorter. Because like adults don't quite know what to do with your height, they expect more. They treat you like you're older. There's almost a robbing of the innocence. And then you walk around literally a foot or two above most other people. So um, you can't hide and you can't kind of fall into the crack somewhere. You're always seen. And so do you go back to, that's the preamble to, do you feel understood as a person?
I think that I have to when I look back, I totally agree. When you grow up, especially when you're growing up, I think that you are experiencing what you just said, that you are being much taller and you're being looked at differently. You've been probably made fun of because of your height. You are not as mobile, you are not as coordinated because it takes time for your body to fill in, to be feeling comfortable in your own skin. I think that the posture, the size itself does sometimes speak for yourself before you open your mouth. It's just because the body language when you walk into the room just creates probably like a little bit more demand, a little bit more respect because you're big, you're tall. But I really believe that it's all about, especially now, like I think it's all about how you act, how you treat people, how you talk to people, how you being around and with people that never really were professional athletes or celebrities, and you have conversation with them and you are happy to have conversation with them, and that's when they first they what I'm from my experiences, they always felt feeling like overwhelmed when they talk to me. They're like, oh my God, I cannot believe I'm talking to you, or oh my God, you are so and so, I didn't know. But I'm like, hey, I'm just a regular guy. I you know I love that you followed me, and we're big fans, and I really appreciate it. But I'm here just me. I'm not wearing the C. I'm not wearing the 33. I'm not wearing the jersey. I'm not having trophies around myself. I wear my casual T-shirt, and hey, let's talk. Let's have a conversation. And I think that goes long ways. I think that I think what we do as athletes and what we accomplish, it's a great thing. But once that's over, I think your life continues, and you gotta realize that yes, you build yourself some really respected way, your name and what you accomplish, and but you can't be walking around with that attitude that hey, I'm so and so, and everybody else is not nothing. I mean, I think you got to realize that everybody deserves to be treated same and with respect. And if somebody asks you something, I think you should be talking to them like you talk to anybody else. It's just the way I like to do it that way.
When you think about leadership, do you personally lead with your heart, a la lead with emotions? Do you lead with your body? I think you're going to say no, like your physical presence. Do you lead with your mind? Do you lead with your spirit? And you can have any combination thereof and certainly add anything. But when you think about how you lead, is it coming from your heart, your spirit, your mind, or your body?
For me, it has to come natural. It has to come from my heart, from how I feel about a certain situation. And that's, for me, it's always about to do small things right, and be really humble. Like I always feel like when you humble and when you know always thinking like how would you like to be seen, or how you would like to be treated, I think you always kind of like, then I think most of the time, or very very rarely, you do something wrong. You probably do a lot of times the right thing.
So you're a big, large, intimidating defensive body, and you're an enforcer. So you're leading with your heart, and then on the ice, the world saw you as the tough guy. Tell me how you were able to navigate those two different parts of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, you at times you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta play, that intimidating part, and you gotta physically, physically, be a force. I mean, it's just the way it is. I mean, as much as you have a good heart, and you want to be a nice guy, it's a war. Like it's something that out there, when you go out there, you gotta, sometimes you gotta push the buttons, and I guess you gotta be a little bit uncomfortable to do that. But you gotta be aware of that. It's need to be, you have to be intimidating, to give yourself a little bit more room, and your team a more confidence. So you are not just doing it because you want to be, just showing off that you're strong, and all that. You want to use it in the right places at the right times. You don't want to be obviously doing it all the time, but I think at the right time and for the right reasons, you gotta be there for your teammates and for yourself to be also physically intimidating, because it's just the way it is. Once in a while, you just got to do what you got to do to make that impact. That hey, we have also muscle on our teams, and we can play that way too.
Part of leadership is influencing or co-building or co-creating a culture. And you put a tall flag in the ground when you said first year players, we're not hazing. We are not hazing first year players. And you're quoted by saying, how can you expect something out of a young player on the ice when you treat him differently off the ice? Can you expand on that?
Yeah, well, that's something that happened, a little bit my early age, growing up in Slovakia. It was kind of like a common thing that when um, teams got combined, multiple year, guys, or different birth years, guys got kind of like combined in the same team when you start playing juniors. And the older guys always took kind of like for granted that, hey, like, we have these younger guys, they gotta be picking up the pucks, they gotta be, cleaning up the locker rooms and doing all these things. So it got, almost like every year it got to a different level. They became almost bullying. And so I didn't like it when we were on the same team, and you being treated by all the guys differently off the ice, and then you come on the ice and they were like, "Hey, pass me a puck," or go battle over there, and then I'll be here. Like I just felt like there's some disconnection and dysfunctionality of the team, and I just I told myself, if I ever have a position, or if I ever be able to make that impact or change, I'll just do it. And it just became very obvious to me that that word rookie, and it was just like, it didn't ring well in my ears. I just didn't like it. I didn't like the wording. Even it's not a bad word. It just the way it sounded when it was being said by older veteran guys. Hey rookies! Hey rookies, do that! Hey rookies, come over here. I just didn't like the way it sounded, and that's why I just didn't
Mm.
want to get rid of it. And I made it clear that everybody's gonna be treated the same way. Yes, there are gonna be some obligations that the first year players will, be picking up a pucks, but we had veteran guys picking up pucks with them, so they would not feel like, oh, it's always only us. If first year guys got to, didn't get to play much in those first years in the games, they get that much ice time. I would sit on a bike next to them and ride after the games and ride bike with them. Even I played 30 minutes, so they would see that, hey, like it's okay. I'm right here with you. I played 30 minutes. You played 10. I'm gonna do the same bike ride as you have to do the bike ride because you didn't play as much. And I think that goes a long way when you start doing things like that. That they feel like we are part of it. We are the same team. There was no like seating on the bus that all the first year guys had to sit up front on the bus and all the veterans could sit back. We would mix it up. We would have, for lunches, the guys would, like the first year guys would always stand and last in the line. I said, no, go get the food. Like, don't have to wait till everybody else gets the food. Like little things like that I hope I help to make more positive impact and change that really made everybody same and equal. And I mean, yes, you play more games, you have more experiences, but he will be playing with you. He can make you better, and you can make him better, and together we can make the team better. So let's do that.
I read a quote that you said that you want to help these people so that they can do good things for the betterment of the team. You said, I just believe that's the humanity of teams. What do you mean by humanity of teams?
And meaning that we all athletes, but and we all want to win and we all want to perform. And I understand the sports; it's also a business. But at the end of the day, we all humans. Like we all want to be living by certain standards and acting by certain standards. So it doesn't mean that you put the uniform on and you just become a robot and just be like, oh, I'm a professional athlete. I don't have to do this because I have the uniform on. No, you got to be still acting and behaving like a human being and thinking, yeah, like, okay, like I gotta, I'm a professional athlete, but I'm also doing things right for right reasons.
All right, Z, I've just had this overwhelming kind of sense that people in your life are better because of you. And I'm not saying you're not flawed and don't have things, that you're working on, but like, what a great teammate in life. You must be. And so thank you for your time. Thank you for the way that you chose the words that you chose and all the work that went into a really rich conversation. So I just want to say thank you.
No, thank you, Michael. It was been a lot of fun. I'm glad that I could share some of my experiences, my thoughts, and yeah, I'm just a regular guy. I just, yeah, I just like to be
I'm,
normal.
I I actually don't think there's much that's regular about you. I think there's a lot that's pretty extraordinary. But can I give you some quick hits? Just a handful, like give you a quick little sentence, and then you finish it with one or two words.
Okay, sure.
Okay. It all comes down to
Your mind,
living the good life is marked by
your behavior,
mental toughness is
your strength.
success is
When you're happy,
the key to success is
self-discipline,
my vision is
unlimited.
if you could sit with a true master and you had one question to ask them, who would that master of craft or master of self be? And where would you want to sit with them? And what would be the one question?
I would like to sit with them somewhere in a very peaceful nature. Um, what that question would be,
And who is the person?
I don't know. You called me off guard right now because there's a lot going on, like in my head, that I'm thinking about all these very very successful people, but it's almost like I would like to sit there with uh, a younger me as an older but the younger me, and asking, or maybe the opposite, me younger being talking to older me and asking questions. I guess maybe like it's just I know it's a weird way. This is not really
Yeah,
weird.
that's cool. No, that's cool. And if there was one question that comes up for you right now that you'd want to ask.
Then I would ask, like, what would you change? What would you do differently? Right? Like you asking yourself, maybe like, obviously you can roll back or you can roll forward. But I guess it's
Mhm.
maybe a little deeper. You know.
What wrongs do you want to be set right?
I think that there are some wrongs that you look back, and maybe things you did, said, or, but I think in a way that the wrongs they're gonna happen. Like it's sometimes you do wrongs without you knowing that you're doing wrongs. You just don't know, like, oh, it was wrong, but you just didn't know, and then you realize that happened because now you know how to do those wrongs right. So I guess unless it's super super obvious, yeah. But I think sometimes, or most of the times, we all do wrongs because we just don't know there are wrongs. We just do them, and then those wrongs are part of those rights.
Last question. What's one thing that you used to value, but you don't anymore?
I'll tell you which one I will always value: friendships. I mean, that's something that you always value the friendships and the true friendships. But I don't know, Michael. What do you think? What is yours?
I think it's a really hard question. I
That's,
love that. I love what you just did with that. You said, let me just actually not think about the negative. Let me go straight to the positive.
yeah.
I
Um.
adore friendships. I think I learned more in how you just did that than what you actually said, but like how you did it speaks volumes to me. And then you said, I don't know. And you asked, like, how would you do yours? Like all of that is really cool.
Well, thank you, Michael. You try to think, like, like what's not, and I like to think what is important, like what's value, like to me, like like you look back, like I said, like the career and the stats and trophies, yeah, but at the end, like that's just a part of your life. That's like, okay, for some people, maybe, or athletes, 5 years, some 10, some really good ones 20, or, but then like the true friends are not there for 5, 10. They're there for the whole your life. So that's, to me, that's the most important. Like your friends, your family, like your closest ones.
As we're just rounding out here, would say no if you don't like this, but could I would you be open for me to share with you how I understand you?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
No, 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 for real. No, would you really like that? Or is that like, no, this is too awkward?
No, Michael, I think it's fine if you share how you see me. I would like to
Yeah.
hear that.
Really open to ideas, experiences, highly conscientious. You are you're not burdened by being agreeable with others because you have your own ideas and you express them. You are fundamentally positive and optimistic in the way that you approach conversations and situations. You are incredibly psychologically agile. You accept what is. You're not trying to change it. You're trying to be better the next time it comes around. I think you're driven by values. You're highly committed. You've made fundamental commitments in your life, and you've stuck with those. And you've got this convergence that takes place where you've lined up your thoughts, words, and actions over consistency, even in hard situations. So you're highly trustworthy by others. They feel around you that you're in it for them as well, that your ability and logic stands up because of the hard work that you've done, and that overall you have the ability to shift your attention to be able to meet the demands of a moment. You don't get stuck in, in a cognitive focused way. And you have this gregarious, outgoing way, but there's a private part of you that is where the real Z lives. And I think you probably have a pretty small inner circle of people know the deeper part of you. But at the level of what we just expressed, like you're open, so it's not closed off, but there's a deep private part of you that's beautiful and amazing. I think that you are a fantastic teammate to others, and they don't just need to be teammates, but you stand for them, you see them, you commit to them in the same way that you've committed to your life efforts as well. And so, and I think you have just enough neuroticism underneath, to go that extra edge to do the hard work, which probably fueled you in a lot of ways. But I don't see you as being fueled by anxiety. I don't see you as being intolerant and frustrated. However, the standard of excellence that you would hold yourself and others to is not rainbows and butterflies. Like you'd get in there and you would hold a standard and you would support and challenge each other along the way. So that's in essence how I see you.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that, Michael. Thank you so much.
Did I get any of that right or wrong?
No, you get probably most of it right. Yeah, I mean, I was listening. I was like trying to soak everything in. Yeah.
Yeah. Z, thank you. And I'm honored to have you on this podcast and share your insight and wisdom with our community. So thank you.
No, thank you so much, Michael, for having me, and it's been a lot of fun. And yeah, appreciate it.
Awesome. Awesome.